The gleaming ship cut through the darkness of space as it approached a familiar solar system. The Tauric vessel, Memory of Ancestors, slowed its approach, engaging standard research protocols automatically. Inside the sleek command center, Captain Dai sat upright in his chair, his eyes fixed on the holographic display floating before him. Dai's gray skin reflected the soft blue glow of the ship's lights as he carefully reviewed ancient records. His four-fingered hand swiped through historical data, pausing occasionally at images of a blue-green planet that grew larger on the main view screen. According to the archives, he announced to his crew, "Our ancestors visited this world 500,000 years ago. They found primitive mammals walking on two legs, using crude tools. Fascinating that we're returning after so long." Science Officer Minho nodded while adjusting the long-range scanners. His tall, slender frame bent over the console, the black uniform contrasting with his pale skin. "These creatures were barely worth noting at the time," he said. "Our ancestors calculated only a 0.002% probability they would develop significant intelligence." "Just another scheduled survey," replied Dai with a dismissive wave. "We've checked 27 primitive worlds this cycle, all exactly as our ancestors left them." The bridge crew worked quietly, each at their station preparing standard observation protocols. Navigator Suna plotted their orbital insertion, while biologist Hannah reviewed the ancient biological samples taken from Earth during the first visit. "Entering orbital approach," announced Suna, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Standard observation pattern established. As the ship curved around the planet's dark side, the morning sun gradually illuminated the Earth below them. The bridge fell silent. Where they expected to see pristine wilderness with perhaps small settlements of primitive beings, something entirely different appeared. Technician Jinwoo's hands froze above his console. "Captain," he called, his voice unusually tense. "Sensors are detecting thousands, no, tens of thousands, of artificial satellites orbiting the planet." Dai turned sharply. "Confirm readings." "Confirmed, Captain. And there's more." Jinwoo's voice grew shakier. "Massive energy signatures coming from the surface, city structures covering entire regions, artificial lights visible even from orbit. The atmosphere shows significant modification." Minho abandoned his station to join Jinwoo, examining the readings himself. "This can't be right," he muttered, recalibrating the sensors. The same results appeared again. "The surface is completely transformed from our baseline records." Dai stood slowly, walking to the main view screen. The image showed North America coming into view, its coastline outlined in lights, vast city networks glowing across what had once been wilderness. Massive structures reached into the sky. Ships, thousands of them, moved across oceans and through air. "The impossible has happened," Dai whispered. Hana joined them at the view screen. These modifications would require advanced technology, far beyond what should be possible in this time frame. "Could another spacefaring race have settled here?" asked Suna. Minho shook his head. "Our historical records show no colonization plans for this sector. This development appears to be indigenous." The implications stunned the crew. No species in recorded history had advanced so rapidly. The galaxy was filled with ancient civilizations that had taken millions of years to develop spaceflight. Even the Torak had needed 2 million years to progress from simple tools to their current technology. "These creatures," said Da slowly, "have compressed 2 million years of development into 500,000. The silence on the bridge was broken by a sudden alarm. The communication system activated without command, the main screen splitting to show strange patterns and symbols flowing across it. "What's happening?" demanded Da. Communications Officer Quan worked frantically at his station. "Captain, we're receiving directed transmissions from the planet. Multiple sources, multiple formats. They're targeting us specifically." "How is that possible?" asked Hana. "Our cloaking technology should make us invisible to primitive scanning systems." "These aren't primitive systems," replied Quan. "These signals are precisely focused on our location." They know we're here. The symbols on the screen began organizing themselves, shifting and changing. The computer struggled to interpret the information. "They're attempting to communicate," said Quan, fascination replacing his initial alarm. "The computer is detecting patterns, mathematical sequences, atomic structures, basic universal constants." Dave straightened his uniform. "A first contact protocol. They're establishing the communication baseline." "That's not all," added Jinwoo, examining new sensor readings. "I'm detecting objects launching from the surface. Small vessels moving toward our position." "Weapons?" asked Dai sharply. "Negative. They appear to be observation drones. Unmanned, but their trajectory will bring them into visual range of our ship within minutes." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The standard mission parameters never accounted for this scenario. They were scientists, not first contact specialists. "We need to report this to Central Command immediately," said Minho. "This discovery changes everything we understand about species development." Day nodded, but his attention remained fixed on the screen where the symbols were forming increasingly complex patterns. "Prepare a comprehensive report. Include all sensor data and these communication attempts." Quan suddenly straightened. "Captain, the computer has partially decoded their transmission. It's a greeting." "Display it," ordered Da. Words appeared on the screen in the Tauric language, stunning the crew into silence. "Welcome back to Earth. We've been expecting you." Day felt a chill run through his body. "How is this possible? They're communicating in our language." "There's more," said Quan, his voice barely audible. "They're transmitting historical images of the first Tauric expedition to Earth." The screen filled with crystal-clear images showing Tauric explorers from 500,000 years earlier. The ancient scientists were pictured collecting samples, observing primitive humans from a distance. "They preserved records of our visit," whispered Hana. "All this time." "Captain," called Jinwoo urgently. "Those objects from the surface, they're changing course. They're surrounding our ship in a perfect geometric pattern." The small drones formed a sphere around the Tauric vessel, keeping a respectful distance, but clearly mapping every detail of the ship. A new message appeared on screen. "Your ancestors catalogued us as specimen XJ2249. We've been waiting for your return. Please maintain your orbit. Our representatives are preparing to meet you." Day sank back into his command chair, trying to process this unprecedented situation. The primitive mammals had not only survived, but had thrived beyond all probability. They had developed technology rivaling the Tauric's own, remembered their first contact 500,000 years ago, and now were treating the Tauric as equals, or perhaps as something else. "What do we do, Captain?" asked Minho. Day looked at the beautiful blue planet below, now transformed by an intelligence that had achieved in 500,000 years what had taken other species millions. An intelligence that had been watching, waiting, and preparing for this moment. "We follow first contact protocols," he replied quietly, "and we prepare ourselves for the possibility that we are no longer the discoverers here, but the discovered." The emergency meeting chamber aboard the Memory of Ancestors hadn't been used for an actual crisis in over 30 years. Now, the ship's senior officers gathered around the circular table, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of the holographic displays. Captain Dai sat rigidly at the head position, his four-fingered hands pressed flat against the table's smooth surface. "The situation is unprecedented," he began, addressing the 12 officers. "We've encountered a species that has advanced far beyond our projections." Ambassador Hyun rose from her seat, her tall frame casting a long shadow across the table. Unlike the others in their standard dark uniforms, she wore the formal diplomatic attire of the Tauric Exploration Authority, silver gray with purple markings indicating her senior rank. "We need to implement first contact protocols," she announced, removing an old physical manual from her case. Dust scattered as she placed it on the table. "This document hasn't been used outside training simulations for generations." The manual looked almost comically outdated next to their advanced technology. Hyun opened it carefully, the paper pages crackling. These protocols were designed for encountering spacefaring civilizations of comparable development, she continued. Not for primitives who advanced while we weren't watching. Communications specialist Kyung, who had been analyzing the Earth transmissions for hours, shook his head in disbelief. Their communications technology is extraordinary. They use multiple formats, frequencies, and encryption systems we can barely understand. The complexity suggests centuries of information technology development. How could they advance so rapidly? Asked Medical Officer Jiho. No species in recorded history has compressed so much development into such a short evolutionary time frame. Perhaps they received outside assistance, suggested Security Chief Eun, her expression grim. Another advanced species may have uplifted them. Minho dismissed this with a wave. Our long-range scans show no evidence of non-indigenous technology. Whatever they achieved, they did it themselves. Before they could debate further, the main screen activated. A new message appeared, displayed in perfect Tauric script with flawless grammatical structure. Welcome back to Earth. We've been expecting your return, people of Tauric. The room fell silent. Minho stared at the screen, his mouth slightly open. How do they know our species name? He gasped. How could they possibly know about the previous survey? This exceeds all reasonable expectations, whispered Hyun, abandoning her manual. They shouldn't know our language at all. The message continued to scroll across the screen. We invite your delegation to our orbital diplomatic station. Coordinates attached. A string of precise navigational data followed, indicating a large structure in geosynchronous orbit above what had once been called North America in their ancient records. It could be a trap, warned Eun immediately. We should maintain distance and request that they send representatives to us instead. Day studied the coordinates carefully. Our sensors detected this structure earlier. It appears to be a diplomatic facility, not a military installation. Even so, countered Eun, we can't risk. They've had hours to attack us if that was their intention, interrupted Da. They've shown only curiosity and hospitality. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. Even the most experienced among them had never faced a situation like this. I will lead a small delegation, Dae decided finally. Ambassador Hyun, Science Officer Minho, Medical Officer Jiho, and Security Chief Eun will accompany me. The rest of you will maintain ship readiness and open emergency channels to Central Command. Captain, protested Navigator Suna, regulations require you to remain aboard during first contact situations. Dae smiled thinly. Those regulations assume we're the advanced civilization making contact with primitives. This situation is reversed. 4 hours later, the Tauric shuttle approached the human orbital station. Through the viewport, they could see the massive structure gleaming in the sunlight. It was an elegant creation, a series of connected rings rotating gently to create artificial gravity, with large transparent sections revealing gardens and what appeared to be living quarters inside. The design is remarkably efficient, noted Minho, scanning the structure. The materials suggest advanced metallurgy and composite engineering. Look at the propulsion system, added Eun. Those aren't conventional thrusters. They're using some kind of gravity manipulation to maintain orbit. As they approached the indicated docking bay, the shuttle's communication system activated. A calm voice speaking perfect Tauric welcomed them. Tauric vessel, you are cleared for docking in Bay 7. Our atmospheric composition has been adjusted to match your homeworld parameters. Medical scans indicate no biological hazards between our species. Joe looked startled. They've already analyzed our biological makeup. Those drones that circled our ship, murmured Da. They weren't just observing our technology. The docking procedure went smoothly, the shuttle connecting seamlessly with the station's airlock. The Tauric delegation prepared themselves, checking their portable analyzers and communication devices. Eun insisted they carry emergency beacons, though she seemed less convinced they would be needed now. "Remember," said Hyun as they gathered at the airlock, "we represent not just our ship but our entire civilization. We must proceed with dignity and openness." The airlock cycled, and the inner door slid open to reveal a spacious reception area. The lighting was adjusted to the comfortable range for toric vision. The temperature and humidity matched their homeworld perfectly. 5 humans stood waiting in a semicircle. They wore simple blue garments that seemed both formal and functional. The humans varied in height, coloration, and facial features, but all stood upright with composed expressions. What stunned the toric delegation wasn't just the humans' presence but their calmness. There was no wonder or amazement at meeting aliens, only the polite interest of equals greeting long-expected visitors. The central human, slightly taller than the others with dark hair streaked with gray, stepped forward. "Captain Da, Ambassador Hyun, Science Officer Minho, Medical Officer Jiho, and Security Chief Un," he said, identifying each toric correctly without introduction. "Welcome to Earth Diplomatic Station 1. I am Director 1, Earth Diplomatic Corps." Da managed to maintain his composure despite his shock at being identified by name and rank. "On behalf of the Toric Exploration Authority, we thank you for your welcome." One gestured to comfortable seating arranged around a low table. "Please, be seated. We've prepared refreshments suitable for your physiology." As they took their seats, the toric visitors noticed the environment had been meticulously designed to accommodate them. The chairs supported their longer spinal structure. The table height matched toric ergonomic standards. "Your facility is impressively adapted to our needs," observed Hyun cautiously. Director 1 smiled. "We've been preparing for this meeting for centuries. Your return was anticipated long ago." Minho couldn't contain his scientific curiosity. "How did you know we would return? How do you know our language, our biology?" "The survey ship that visited Earth 500,000 years ago left traces," explained one. "A small probe crashed in what we once called the Ural Mountains. It was damaged but contained recoverable data about your species." "But our technology self-destructs upon malfunction," protested Minho. "It tried to," said another human, a woman introduced as Science Director Yuna. "But the self-destruct mechanism only partially activated. We recovered the language database, biological records, and star charts." Day felt a chill run through him. The implications were enormous. "You've known about us all this time." "We've been studying you for quite some time," confirmed one, "just as you once studied us." The room fell silent as the toric delegation absorbed this revelation. The primitives their ancestors had catalogued and dismissed had not only survived and thrived, they had been watching and waiting. "Welcome back to Earth," repeated one, raising a small cup in what appeared to be a gesture of friendship. "We have much to discuss." Director 1 guided the toric delegation into a larger meeting chamber. The room was circular with a huge window offering a breathtaking view of Earth below. The blue planet dominated the vista, white clouds swirling across its surface, city lights visible even from this distance. At the center of the room stood a large round table with a sophisticated holographic projector in its middle. Several more humans waited there, dressed in the same simple blue uniforms. They rose as the delegation entered. "Please be seated," said one, gesturing to chairs specially designed for toric physiology. "Let me introduce Director Tae, our chief diplomat for interstellar relations." Director Tae was shorter than one, but carried herself with unmistakable authority. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and her eyes seemed to assess each visitor with quick intelligence. "Thank you for accepting our invitation," she began once everyone was seated. "We understand this situation must be disorienting for you." Ambassador Hyun maintained her diplomatic composure. "We are certainly surprised by your level of advancement. Our historical records indicated your species was in a primitive state during our last visit." "About that visit," said Ta, her expression shifting slightly, "we should explain how we came to know about the toric." She touched a control on the table. The holographic projector hummed to life, displaying a three-dimensional image of what appeared to be a damaged toric survey probe. Parts of its outer casing were missing, revealing complex internal components. "We found your survey probe," explained Ta. "It crashed in what we once called Siberia. The technology was damaged, but intact enough to study." Minho leaned forward, his eyes wide with disbelief. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Our technology self-destructs upon malfunction." "It tried to," another human scientist said. "The cold preserved it. When the self-destruct sequence initiated, only partial destruction occurred. The extreme temperatures froze the molecular disintegration process. We discovered it approximately 10,000 years ago," continued Ta. "It was our first concrete evidence that we weren't alone in the universe." Day found his voice. "You've had our technology for 10,000 years. "Yes, it accelerated our development considerably," admitted Ta. "Though we were already advancing rapidly by then." Tay touched another control. The holographic image changed to show a timeline of human development. The acceleration after discovering the probe was dramatic. "That alone doesn't explain your current level of advancement," said Yun suspiciously. "Even with a technological boost, no species develops this quickly." "We are unusual," acknowledged Ta. "Our planet's harsh conditions forced rapid adaptation. Our short lifespans drove us to solve problems quickly. Our competitive nature pushed constant innovation." The hologram shifted again. This time, it displayed something that made every toric visitor stiffen in shock. It was a detailed map of the toric homeworld, complete with city locations, orbital stations, and defense systems. "We've been observing your homeworld and colonies for over 200 years, continued Ta calmly, as if she hadn't just revealed something terrifying. Day felt his blood freeze as the hologram rotated, showing their entire star system with astonishing detail. Information no outsider should possess. "How?" he managed to ask. Another human, introduced as Chief Science Officer Jun, stepped forward. "Once we developed faster than light travel, we sent small observation probes to the coordinates found in your crashed survey ship." Jun manipulated the controls, and the hologram shifted to display various toric colonies across multiple star systems. Each was rendered with perfect accuracy. "We've been careful to remain undetected," added Jun. "Our observation technology operates outside your sensor parameters." Medical Officer Geo found her voice. "You've been studying us without our knowledge. For centuries. Just as you once studied us," replied Ta evenly. "We were curious about the beings who had visited our world so long ago." The implications stunned the toric delegation. These humans hadn't just caught up technologically. They had surpassed them, and had been watching them for generations. "Our own expansion began approximately 300 years ago," continued another human representative, a younger woman named Minji. "We've established colonies across 27 star systems, though we've kept most of our expansion hidden until now." 27 systems, repeated Minho weakly. "The same number we've surveyed this cycle." The coincidence wasn't lost on anyone. The humans had clearly been monitoring even their current mission. "Why reveal yourselves to us now?" asked Da, struggling to maintain his composure. "Why not continue observing us secretly?" Tay's expression softened slightly. "Because we're ending our self-imposed quarantine. And you, Captain, have the honor of being the first to know that humanity is ready to join the galactic community." Hyun leaned toward Da and whispered, "They've been watching us all along." Day felt a chill run through his body. He looked at the faces of the humans around the table. They appeared so similar to how they had looked 500,000 years ago. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with forward-facing eyes. And yet everything had changed. Behind those eyes now lay knowledge and capabilities that the Torek had never anticipated. "Are there other spacefaring civilizations you've observed?" asked Yun, her security training prompting the critical question. "Yes," replied Tai simply. 17 major civilizations and 32 developing ones. The number matched exactly with the Toric Authority's own records of known galactic civilizations. You've been watching all of us, said Da, the full scope of the situation becoming clear. We needed to understand the neighborhood before introducing ourselves, said Ta. It seemed prudent. June manipulated the holographic controls again. The display shifted to show a vast map of the galaxy. Colored points of light indicated the locations of various civilizations. The human expansion, highlighted in blue, was surprisingly extensive. Your stealth technology must be exceptional for none of us to have detected you, noted Minho, professional curiosity momentarily overriding his shock. We developed along different technological paths than most galactic civilizations, explained June. Our approach to physics and engineering evolved uniquely, partly because of our isolation and partly because of our particular cognitive processes. You said you're ending your quarantine, said Hyun, returning to the diplomatic implications. Why now? And why make contact with us first? Tai stood and walked to the window, gazing down at Earth for a moment before turning back to the delegation. We've been monitoring all transmissions between spacefaring civilizations for centuries. We know the Toric Exploration Authority is respected for its scientific approach and non-aggressive contact protocols. You were the logical first choice. But why end your isolation at all? Pressed Da. Because it's time, replied Ta. We've learned enough, developed enough, and there are matters affecting all sentient species that require cooperative action. The room fell silent as the Toric delegation absorbed this information. The humans had not only advanced beyond all probability, but had been patiently watching, learning, and expanding without detection. The primitives their ancestors had dismissed were now revealing themselves as perhaps the most advanced species in known space. There's more we need to discuss, continued Ta, including some concerning developments in the outer spiral arm that your sensors haven't detected yet. But first, we want to extend a formal invitation from humanity to the Toric people. She made a gesture, and a human assistant brought forward an ornate container. Tai opened it to reveal a beautiful crystalline object that seemed to capture and refract light in impossible ways. This is an invitation to Earth, not just for your delegation, but for a formal diplomatic visit from your highest authorities. We would like to properly introduce ourselves to our oldest observers. Da looked at the gift, then at his fellow officers, seeing his own mix of wonder and fear reflected in their expressions. And if we refuse? Asked Un quietly. Tai smiled gently. Then we would respect your decision and make contact with the Zentari Confederation instead. But we hope you'll accept. After all, we share something unique, a historical connection 500,000 years in the making. Day realized that this moment would forever change the future of the Toric people and perhaps all known civilizations. The humans had revealed just enough to make clear that they held the technological advantage, but had done so with restraint and apparent goodwill. We will convey your invitation to our authorities, he said finally, and I suspect they will be as eager to understand your people as you have been to understand ours. Excellent, said Ta. Then shall we continue with a tour of our facility? We've prepared quite a few demonstrations that your scientists might find interesting. As they rose to follow their hosts deeper into the station, Ambassador Hyun whispered to Da, "This is either the most significant first contact in galactic history or the most terrifying." "I suspect," replied Da quietly, "it may be both." The return journey to the memory of ancestors was silent. Each member of the Toric delegation sat lost in their own thoughts, occasionally glancing at the blue planet slowly shrinking behind them. Captain Dai clutched the crystal invitation, its surface cool against his skin. When they docked with their ship, the waiting crew immediately sensed something was wrong. The delegation's expressions told a story before any words were spoken. "Assemble the senior staff in the main conference room," Dad ordered as they stepped through the airlock. Priority 1. 20 minutes later, the ship's officers gathered around the large oval table. Dai stood at the head, his normally composed demeanor visibly strained. "What we learned today changes everything," he began. "The humans are not only technologically advanced, They have been observing our civilization for centuries. They have mapped our homeworld, studied our colonies, and monitored our communications without detection. Murmurs of alarm spread through the room. "This is a security breach of unprecedented scale," said Navigator Suma, her voice tight with concern. "It's worse than that," replied Hyun. "They've been monitoring all known spacefaring civilizations for generations." Day activated the ship's holographic system, displaying the data they had been permitted to bring back from the human station. The detailed maps of Torak territories appeared in the air above the table, rotating slowly. "How is this possible?" asked Technician Jinwoo. "Our detection systems are the most advanced in the quadrant." "Not anymore," replied Minho grimly. "The humans have developed along technological paths we never explored. Their approach to physics is different." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. A species their ancestors had dismissed as primitive had not only caught up, but had surpassed them without anyone noticing. Suddenly, the ship's proximity alert sounded. Jinwoo rushed to the nearest console. "Captain, a human shuttle is approaching. They're requesting permission to dock." Day exchanged glances with his officers. "Why would they follow us?" "Perhaps they didn't tell us everything," suggested Eun, her hand instinctively moving toward her sidearm. After a brief consultation, Dai authorized the docking. "If they wanted to harm us, they could have done so at their station. Let's hear what they have to say." The human shuttle docked with elegant precision. Science Director Jun emerged, accompanied by two other humans carrying several large containers. They were escorted to the conference room under Yun's watchful eye. "Forgive our unannounced visit," said Jun, bowing slightly to the assembled officers. "But after your departure, our council decided additional information should be shared with you directly." "What kind of information?" asked Dai cautiously. Jun gestured to his companions, who opened the containers they had brought. Inside were not weapons or technology, but what appeared to be fossils, soil samples, and ancient artifacts. "We believe you deserve to understand humanity more thoroughly before you report to your authorities," explained Jun. "Particularly why we developed as we did." The human scientists arranged their samples on the conference table. Jun activated a small device that projected a timeline of Earth's history into the air. "Our planet tried to kill us many times," he explained, pointing to various markers on the timeline. "Ice ages that froze entire continents, supervolcanoes that darkened skies for decades, meteorites that wiped out dominant species, plagues that decimated populations. The timeline showed repeated catastrophes spanning millions of years. Each disaster culled our numbers but strengthened our resolve," continued Jun. "The survivors adapted, changed, evolved faster than should have been biologically possible." Medical Officer Jiho leaned forward, examining a human skull fossil with professional interest. "Your species shows signs of accelerated neural development." "Yes," agreed Jun. "Our brains grew and reorganized rapidly in response to environmental pressures. We developed abstract thinking, complex language, and technological innovation at rates that defied conventional evolutionary timescales. Many species face harsh conditions," noted Minho. "What made humans different?" Jun smiled slightly. "We appear to be unusually stubborn. When faced with extinction, we refuse to accept it." He activated another display, this one showing human technological development. The curve of advancement was not gradual but exponential, particularly after discovering the Torak probe. "Your technology gave us a boost, certainly," acknowledged Jun. "But our progress was already accelerating. Finding your probe mainly confirmed what we suspected, that we weren't alone and that we needed to prepare." "Prepare for what?" asked Da. "For joining a galactic community that might not welcome us," replied Jun candidly. "So we observed before revealing ourselves." The human scientists then demonstrated technologies that the Torak delegation had only glimpsed at the station. They manipulated gravity with casual ease, created stable miniature wormholes between points in the conference room, and harnessed energy from what they called quantum fluctuations in the vacuum itself. This violates established physical laws, protested Minot, watching a small object hover and phase slightly in and out of visible reality. Not violates, corrected June gently. Expands upon. Your understanding of physics is excellent but incomplete. The demonstrations continued, each more impressive than the last. The Tauric officers watched with a mixture of scientific fascination and growing unease. These humans possessed capabilities that seemed almost like ancient legends of magic. Finally, Joan deactivated the devices and turned to face Captain Da directly. His expression grew serious. "There's something else you should know," he said, his voice lower. "The real reason we've decided to end our isolation now." He activated one final projection. This one showed deep space, far beyond the edges of the galaxy. At first, it appeared to be empty, just the usual background radiation and distant stars. Then June enhanced a particular section, revealing something that shouldn't be there, a vast darkness moving against the cosmic background. "Our deep space detectors have identified a threat approaching the galaxy," June explained quietly. "Something massive, ancient, and hungry." The room fell completely silent. The projection zoomed in further, showing the darkness was not uniform but composed of countless smaller entities moving in perfect coordination. "What is it?" whispered Da, unable to take his eyes off the image. "We don't know exactly," admitted June. "But we've observed it consuming stellar material at the edges of neighboring galaxies. It appears to be a collective entity that feeds on energy, particularly the energy of living worlds." "How long?" asked Hyun, her diplomatic training momentarily forgotten in the face of this revelation. "At current velocity, it will reach the outer arms of our galaxy within 50 years, replied June. "The first inhabited systems could face contact within 75 years. Day finally looked away from the projection to study June's face. "Why tell us this? Why not continue your observations from hiding?" "Because we need allies," replied June simply. "And because you need to know what you're really afraid of isn't humanity. It's what's coming next." The stark implication hung in the air. The Torak had just discovered that humans were far more advanced and capable than they had ever imagined, a potentially concerning development in itself. But now these same humans were warning of an even greater threat approaching from deep space. "We understand your position is difficult," continued June. "You must decide whether to trust beings who have observed you without your knowledge, who have developed technologies you don't fully understand, and who now claim a cosmic threat is approaching." He straightened slightly. "But consider this. If we wanted dominance, we could have achieved it already. Instead, we're offering partnership against a common enemy." The choice facing Captain Dai was clear. Trust these terrifyingly advanced beings or warn the galaxy about them. Either option carried enormous risks. "We will need to verify your claims about this entity," said Da carefully. "Of course," agreed June. "We've included coordinates for your own deep space observations in the data package, though your current sensors may struggle to detect it clearly." "And if we choose to warn others about humanity instead?" asked Yun directly. June smiled sadly. "Then you would waste precious time preparing for the wrong threat. We don't seek conflict with any species. We seek survival, for all of us." As the human delegation prepared to depart, Jung handed Da a small device. "This contains specifications for upgrading your deep space sensors. It should help you verify what we've shown you." Day accepted it cautiously. "This is generous. It's practical," replied June. "We need you to see the truth for yourselves." After the humans departed, the Tauric officers debated long into the night cycle. Trust or fear? Alliance or warning? The decision would shape not just the future of their mission, but potentially the fate of all known civilizations. "We should assume the humans are being truthful about this threat," Hyun finally suggested, "while maintaining appropriate caution about their other capabilities." "Agreed," said Da, making his decision. "We will report everything to Central Command, recommend provisional cooperation with the humans, and independently verify their claims about this approaching entity. As the meeting adjourned, Day remained alone in the conference room, staring at the projection of Earth still visible through the viewport. The beautiful blue planet that had produced beings capable of observing an entire galaxy without detection. Beings now offering to help save that same galaxy from destruction. The universe, he murmured to himself, has become far more interesting and dangerous than we ever imagined. The Tauric High Council chamber fell into absolute silence as the final recording ended. The 7 senior council members sat motionless, their gray faces pale with shock. Captain Dai stood before them, his posture straight despite his exhaustion after the emergency faster-than-light journey to the homeworld. "This concludes my report," he said quietly. "Everything has been verified by multiple officers and sensor recordings." High Counselor Rio, oldest and most respected of the 7, leaned forward. His hands trembled slightly. "You expect us to believe that humans, primitive mammals we catalogued 500,000 years ago, have not only achieved spaceflight, but have been secretly observing our civilization for centuries." "I understand your disbelief," replied Da. "I felt the same, but the evidence is undeniable." "And this cosmic entity they warn of?" asked Counselor Siak. "Have we verified its existence independently?" "We have," confirmed Science Officer Minho, stepping forward. "Using the sensor modifications the humans provided, we detected unusual energy patterns at the coordinates they specified. Something is certainly approaching from intergalactic space." The council members exchanged troubled glances. "We need time to process this information," said Rio finally. "We must consult with military command, scientific authorities, and—" The chamber doors burst open. A junior communication officer rushed in, breaking all protocols of council etiquette. "Forgive the interruption," she gasped, "but emergency transmissions are arriving from across the galaxy." "What transmissions?" demanded Rio. "Human vessels, High Counselor. Hundreds of them. They've appeared simultaneously at every major world in known space: the Zentari Confederation, the Eltaran Republic, the Drox Collective. All of them." The council chamber erupted into chaos. Voices overlapped as the counselors demanded information, explanations, action plans. "Silence," commanded Rio, standing suddenly. The room quieted immediately. "Is this an invasion?" "No, High Counselor," replied the communication officer. "The human vessels are maintaining non-aggressive positions. They're broadcasting the same message to all worlds, a warning about the approaching threat and an invitation to join something called the Galactic Defense Coalition." Council Leader Juan, who had remained silent until now, suddenly laughed. A short, sharp sound devoid of humor. "They were waiting for us to find them," he realized aloud, "so they could reveal themselves to everyone at once. A perfectly coordinated first contact with the entire galactic community," murmured Da. "Unprecedented." Within hours, the council chamber transformed into a crisis center. Holographic displays showed incoming messages from every major civilization. The initial shock and fear were giving way to confusion and cautious curiosity. The Zentari report human vessels appearing at all 14 of their core worlds simultaneously, reported a diplomatic officer. The Eltarans confirm human observation of their territory dating back 3 centuries. "They've been watching all of us," whispered Counselor Siak, "for generations. And none of us detected them," added Juan grimly. "Not even the Drox, with their sensor networks." More reports flooded in. The humans had shared identical data packages with each civilization, detailed information about the approaching cosmic entity they called the Void, sensor specifications to verify its existence, historical records of human development, and a proposal: a united defense using shared technology and resources. 3 days later, the first emergency multi-species conference in galactic history convened. Representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations gathered via holographic link, many speaking directly for the first time despite coexisting for millennia. Captain Day, now appointed Special Envoy, due to his first contact experience, represented the Torak. Director Ta spoke for humanity. We understand your concerns about our methods. Tai acknowledged to the assembled representatives. Our decision to observe before revealing ourselves may seem deceptive, but we needed to understand the community we hoped to join. You could have announced yourselves centuries ago, argued the Zentari ambassador. Would you have welcomed us as equals? Countered Ta calmly. Or would you have seen us as upstarts to be contained? Our observations suggested the latter was more likely. No one contested this point. The greater question now, continued Ta, is whether we can set aside mutual suspicion to address the common threat. The void will reach the outer systems within 75 years. It consumes all energy, particularly the organized energy of living worlds. The Drox representative, a being of crystalline structure, spoke next. Our deep space observations confirm the human data. The entity is real and approaching. One by one, the other civilizations reported similar verification. The threat was real. The only question remaining was how to respond. Humans call themselves the children of catastrophe, Dai told the assembled representatives, repeating what June had explained. Their planet was a crucible that forged an unparalleled survival instinct. This may explain their rapid advancement, and why they detected this threat when none of us did. What exactly are you proposing? Asked the Eltaran president. Tai activated a holographic display showing advanced defensive technologies beyond anything the other civilizations had developed. Gravity manipulation systems, energy shields that operated on quantum principles, weapons that could affect space-time itself. We offer these technologies freely, said Ta, in exchange for your cooperation and resources. None of us can face this alone, not even humanity. Why should we trust you? Asked the Zentari ambassador directly. Because we could have conquered if we wished to, replied Ta simply. We chose alliance instead. The silence that followed acknowledged the truth of this statement. The conference continued for weeks. Suspicion gradually gave way to cautious cooperation as the scope of the threat became clear. Technical teams from different species began working together for the first time, combining diverse scientific approaches. Surprisingly, it was the Torak who formally proposed the Galactic Defense Coalition. As Captain Day explained to his own council, we were the first to discover humans. It seems fitting we should be the first to formally align with them. Within one standard year, the coalition became reality. Construction began on joint defense stations at strategic positions throughout the galaxy. Research teams combined technologies that had developed independently for millennia, creating new possibilities. Captain Day, now Admiral Day, stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Command Station orbiting a neutral star. Below him, ships from a dozen species maneuvered in coordinated formation, training for a threat still decades away but approaching inexorably. A human officer joined him at the viewport. Director June had become a friend during the intense months of coalition building. Impressive, isn't it? Said June, watching the multi-species fleet. A year ago, some of those ships would have fired on each other on sight. Fear is a powerful motivator, replied Da. So is hope, countered June. We're not just fighting against something, but for something. A galaxy where diverse intelligences can truly collaborate. Day nodded slowly. I've been thinking about why my ancestors dismissed your species' potential. They looked at your physical characteristics, your short lifespans, your fragile bodies, and saw weakness. They couldn't see what those limitations would produce, which was urgency, determination, creativity, the very qualities that might save us all. Day activated his personal recorder, adding a final entry to the report that had started this extraordinary chain of events. The thing that terrifies us most about humans, he dictated carefully, their relentless drive and adaptability, may be the only thing that saves us all. He paused, then added, and perhaps that is the greatest lesson of this encounter. We spent millennia looking for civilizations that mirrored our own development. We should have been looking for differences, for the unique adaptations and perspectives each species brings. The fleet below completed its maneuvers, ships of wildly different designs moving in perfect harmony. The once primitive beings that his ancestors had dismissed were now coordinating the galaxy's defense, and the Torek, who had once studied humans as scientific curiosities, now fought alongside them as equals. "I was wrong about one thing," said Dai thoughtfully. "What's that?" asked June. "When we first discovered your advancement, I called it impossible. But nothing is truly impossible. Some things are just waiting for the right conditions, the right moment, the right species." He gestured toward the fleet below. "Or the right combination of species." June smiled. "Then perhaps the void isn't approaching a galaxy of separate civilizations as it expects." "No," agreed Da, watching as the diverse fleet aligned into defensive formation. "It's approaching something new entirely." The end.